Greetings everyone, my name is Professor Les Henry and welcome to the OUTERVIEW where reason comes first. And today is an honor, a privilege and a pleasure to welcome one of my good friends, one of my only friends, Sis Omolola, Oteh-Cole. How you doing, Sis? Omo, but that's what I call
good.
you.
Yes, you call me Omo. I'm good. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the invite. I was actually quite shocked and honored to receive it. So yes, thank you.
Shocked and honored, and not only are you one of my best friends, but also one of the most creative and gifted people that I've met on my journey. And in fact, let's take this opportunity for you to just tell us about Omo.
About Omo.
Which means child, by the way, doesn't it?
Yes.
You taught me that, what, probably God knows how many years ago. You see,
I know.
I keep stuff up here sometimes.
Yeah. Right, about me. That is one question I always find hard to answer. I would say I'm a work in progress. Born in West London, and then moved to South London when I was little. And then from there moved to Nigeria, which was, most of my formative years was spent in Nigeria. And I'm really pleased about that, actually. I don't think I appreciated it at the time, but I very much do now. What else can I say? I am an actor trained at Goldsmiths. I write, but I don't call myself a writer because I think that's an honor for writers. I write mostly or mainly out of necessity. So when I have something that I want to say and I feel hasn't been said, I write and then perform it and use my medium of drama to bring it to the world. I've run workshops in primary schools as well for children, drama workshops. So I really enjoy doing that because, again, it's an opportunity for me to do something that's not you don't see a lot of, which is bring in, I won't say African theatre, but bring in Black literature, I would say, to children, because I use things like Olarotimi, The Gods Are Not to Blame. I use his play, I use one of his plays. And also the stories we get, like the Anansi type of stories, the myths and fables and things like that. And I use that to bring, I don't know, to bring something else to their knowledge of stories, as apart from the nursery rhymes and I don't know, Beauty and the Beast, those type of Enid Blyton type stories. I give them something that they hopefully can identify with, and those who are not of African descent, something that they can learn. So I really enjoy doing that. What else? Right now, I work as a music and play session leader with babies and toddlers with a company called Heartbeats. And I really, really enjoy that because I like working with children because they're just innocent and they're just raw and they just, no filters. So I like that.
Yeah.
And it also gives me a chance to use my skills that that I've learned and gained over the years. So yeah, so I think that's all I can say about me for now, and hopefully maybe you'll get to hear some more as we go along.
Well, absolutely, we will. And, you know, one of the things we'll discuss later is that wonderful play you wrote, which in some ways was, what do they call it? It was prophetic, that play you wrote about when angels collide.
Yeah.
Which was part of your Imole theatre. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But we can touch on that later. But one of the things I wanted to kick off with then is, you know, it's obvious to me that education of children, in particular African children, and the kind of orientation they need is important to you. What are some of the ways that you've not just noticed, but you've addressed some of those lacks or what you believe these children need to give them a more stable grounding. Because interestingly, you said you were taken to Nigeria when you were a child. So you spent a lot of your formative years there. And one of the people I just interviewed, Brother Wayne Shahid, he was taken to Jamaica when he was 1.5. And again, he said it was the best thing that happened to him because he had a different kind of orientation and also a different approach to education. So I suppose I'm asking you, you know, how can you kind of explain that to us? Why this aspect of education is so important to you, or children's education?
Well, I think the most important, the most fundamental thing is that they don't have a sense of identity. And I saw that, I mean, I started noticing this when I worked, the first time I worked in a primary school. And that's where I started my drama, lunchtime drama workshops. And the reason why I started them, because I don't know, I just noticed that there was, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? There was a connection between children being sent out of class. And as I said, I worked in a primary school. So we're talking about children from the age of like 5 to 11. And for me to see young children at the age of 8 being sent out of class on a regular basis for being disruptive. And then when I sit down and talk to them, I see something totally different.
Is this black children in particular?
Yes.
Okay.
I see something totally different. I don't see a disruptive child. I just see a child who wants to ask questions, a child who's curious. And maybe because I grew, you know, I've got lots of nieces and nephews. So I've been around children, you know, all my life. Even when I was a child, I was around, you know, children. I looked after younger cousins and things like that. So I don't know, I just found it interesting. And as I said, I've got nephews and nieces, and the things that they come home and talk about, that they've learned about in school, and you know, it's like they weren't taught anything about themselves. They didn't know anything about where they came from. Everything that they did was very white. All the books they read were very white. And I made a point of always, birthdays, Christmas, I go looking for books with black children in it, you know, stories about black children, so they can see a reflection of themselves, apart from when they're around family or friends, so that they can see themselves in the world as well. And as I said, I mean, I just noticed that there was just, I think it was a lack of understanding on the part of the adults to take the time. I know they've got a class of 30, but you can still take the time to engage with a child and realize that, you know, they're not just talking for the sake of talking. They're talking because maybe they want to do something else, or, you know, what they're hearing is not, they can't connect to it. That's the thing. They could not connect. They couldn't relate. Because when there was one child in particular, he was in year 3. So he was about 8 years old. And he used to come to the office on a regular basis because I worked in the office. And one day I had to say to him, like, what's going on? Like, why are you here again? You know, sort of thing. And he was just like, you know, I don't know what they're talking about. And I'm tired and I'm bored. And I was like, well, how can you be bored? You're in class. But I guess for 8-year-olds, he couldn't express, you know, what he was trying to say. He couldn't process it in order to express it to me properly. But I guess I could sort of like say, okay, because, and I think also the thing, you know, where you get children and they're not being challenged. So when they're not being challenged, they get distracted. You know,
absolutely.
So it seems like they're being disruptive. It seems like, you know, but that's not the case. Give them something that will interest them. Give them, you know, something that they can do, something that can make them think. and you'll see something different. So that's why I then brought up I put a proposal to the school and said I would like to run drama classes, drama workshops during lunchtime for key stage 1 and key stage 2 on different days.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a point that we were going to work on African stories and, you know, African plays. Like I said, I brought in Olarotimi because you know, there's the Greek version of The Gods Are Not to Blame. Oedipus is Oedipus is the Greek version. So I thought, well, that you do enough of, you know, Charles Dickens and all of that, so let's focus. And I just really wanted to give them, and it was so amazing how they just, the black and the white children, how they just embraced it. They loved it. And because I speak Yoruba, so there was a part in the play where we came in singing Yoruba, so we did like call and response. So I sang and then they repeated, and it was lovely. And we showed it to the school. They performed to the school, and they all just felt really good. And we also talked about the kingdoms that we had, because obviously I gave them a bit of background about the play and, you know, that sort of thing, kings and chiefs. And they didn't know we had kings and chiefs and
I know
things like that. So yeah, so that was really good. And I also worked in another primary school, and we were doing the same sort of thing, and they just loved it. They loved the stories and bringing them to life. And I transported them to, you know, these different countries. They were like stories from Nigeria, stories from Ghana, you know. So yeah, I think it was quite nice.
You see, for me, you know, this is why I keep saying to people, all this rubbish that they talk about decolonizing curriculum and all this stuff, and they're acting like, oh, they want to take down these white canons of knowledge. I say it all the time. That's not what it's about. You just need balance.
Yeah, that's it. It's balance.
Why can you not just give them balance? We're taught Aesop's fables, but we're not taught that Aesop was an Ethiopian, and Aesop actually means Ethiop or Ethiopian. So to me, you imagine if you just said, oh, it's like when you're teaching the Three Musketeers and people don't realize that Pushkin, whatever his name was black. Nowadays, we might call him mixed race or whatever. Yeah. But why don't they make that known? And part of it is that whole whitewashing. And the thing is, if you continue to whitewash that in such a blatant and disrespecting and disparaging way, for me, it exacerbates the tensions between the students and the teachers, which hence why you said, you know, there's a line of them being excluded or being chucked out of class. But more importantly, which I think that perhaps people don't necessarily consider in the 21st century, is they will be bombarded with this. You're Africans, you never did anything of note, you know, you were darkies, then you were slaves, and then you were free, and blah, blah, blah. But suppose these children are receiving these alternatives, like what you offer in the school at home. There's going to be more than cognitive dissonance there. And why are they going to want to listen to people who they know are blatantly deceiving them, whether they're consciously or unconsciously doing it, is moot. The fact is that they're actually doing it. And what really makes me lament when you speak is that is exactly what my school experiences were. Yeah. And we're talking 50 years ago. 50 odd years ago I was at primary school.
Things aren't really changing. I mean, things are not changing because I was looking through my son's workbooks that he brought home, that we went to collect.
How old is your son? So context.
He's 10 now. So
you look too young to have a 10-year-old.
That's very nice of you. He's 10. So I was looking through his books that we went to collect from school. Obviously, you know, school's closed now. They haven't been there since March. And I was looking through them and I thought, oh my goodness, like he's done things on the Tudors. I'm like, we have black people, you know, we were here during that time. He's
absolutely.
Elizabethan stuff, but there's absolutely nothing in my son's workbook that shows anything about himself. Nothing whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. And I know they were only there from like September to March, but that doesn't, you know, there's a lot that could have, that you could have put in there. And what I don't I kind of have a problem with is this whole come October, they want to bombard them with so much stuff, but then they bombard them, as in Black History Month, but then they bombard them with the same thing that they give them every single year, right, about Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King. And I'm like, yeah, but it shouldn't just be at that time that they're giving this information. And this is why I personally think children, they struggle, and not just children, actually. I think we struggle as a people because we just do not know enough about ourselves, enough about what we have done and what we continue to do. And it's really, really important that we have that information, that we have that knowledge of self and our identity, you know, because I know it's a saying of, you know, everyone or most people say you need to know where you're coming from in order to know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're coming from, I mean, I experienced it when I came back to England and went to school. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was, yeah, it was very interesting for me coming to school here. You know, things were totally different. I was just, I mean, because I didn't do history here, but I did history when I was in Nigeria, and we were taught about our own history. We were also taught about the colonial masters as well, but we had a balance. You know, we knew about where we were coming from. We knew about our kingdoms and our kings and queens and, you know, our ancestors. We knew about that. We knew about slavery as well, you know, but we also, you know, and so, but we knew where we were coming from. So I walked around with that sense of pride. So even when I came back over here and people try to, I went to St. Teresa's, and I went the first day I went there, run by nuns. The head teacher was a nun, and she asked me for my name, and I said my name's Omolola Oteh. So she said, "Oh, what's your Christian name?" I said, "Oh, Omolola Mary Oteh." So she said, "We'll call you Mary." I said, "No, my name's Omolola. You can call me Lola." She said, "No." So basically, till I left that school, Sister Margaret always called me Mary. You know, everything they put down on my thing was Mary. All my books, exams, everything was Mary.
So I never even knew you. I've known you so long, but never know saying there Mary.
Yes, because, you know, it's not the name I use.
But you know what is really interesting about that, and I know I told you about this before, because you probably won't remember this conversation, but I was doing some work in a school in Lewisham. So we're talking, it's got to have been 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was working with some, because I'm sure I was at Goldsmiths. I'm sure I was at Goldsmiths and teaching.
Yeah.
And I was working with these recalcitrant youth who were, I think it was 22 on the cusp of exclusion. So we're talking, I used to go in and do like, no, I'm lying. It was later. It was probably about 2008, something like that. Because it was my Goal Models program, because I'd renamed it after I met Brother Twilight in 2005, my educational interventionist thing. And the teacher said to me, the most disruptive boy is a Nigerian boy called Olumide. Do you remember when I asked you?
Yeah.
I said to you, what kind of name is Olumide? And you said, no, it's Olumide.
Yeah.
But she was calling it Olumide, and I was like, he sounds like a Transformer, Decepticon or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even when I said to the teacher, his name is not Olumide, it's Olumide.
Yeah.
When I went back, after I did my interventions and went back to the meeting with her, because I used to do the intervention, write the report, present it to them, she was like, oh, Olumide's improved. And I'm like, what chance have they got?
Exactly. You're not even calling them by their correct name.
No.
You know, it's like, you're not even calling them. But, you know, as I said, so it's that sort of thing, you know. And then I had the girls as well, all girls school. So I had some girls trying to tell me who I am. And I just had to, I mean, anyone who knows me would know I'm the wrong person to try and bully or to try, you know, that sort of. It was just like, but because I knew who I was. Yeah. I knew about my ancestors. Not only did I learn that in school, I learned it at home because my mum, you know, she told
Yeah,
us.
peace be upon her. I met your wonderful
Oh
mum.
yes, may her soul rest in peace. Yes,
Yeah.
you know, my mum was like, I think, you know, going to Nigeria, having my mum has made me who I am today, you know, because I'm just, yeah, I just, because they try to rattle me because, you know, try to make fun of my accent, even though I don't know, whatever accent, I don't know if I had one, if I didn't, I was just speaking, you know, but they tried to make fun of that. And they tried to, you know, tell me to go back to where, and I'm like, are you lot for real? Like, that's not really going to work with me. And I had to tell them about themselves and tell them, do you know, I'm actually royalty. You know, I come from kings and queens. Do you know that? Do you know where you come from? You know, that sort of thing. But it kind of, I mean, it stopped very quickly. It stopped as, you know, as quickly as it started because they realized they couldn't phase me. But it was very interesting just coming here and just not being recognized. You know, nothing that I was taught at school here told me anything about myself other than we were slaves. And for me, that was just like, I'm not really, you know, I'm not really going to hold on to that because I know that we are much more than that. And not just back then, but, you know, going forward as well. We are much more than that because I can see it, you know. So, and I think that's something that's really lacking for our children now. And it's a shame. It's a shame, really. And unfortunately, it's not just children because, as you know, time doesn't stand still. So if I'm feeling like this, obviously people who are in my year are feeling like this. They have children as well. Those before them have children. What has been done about it? You know, so is it just a generation of not knowing? You know,
it is generational.
Generations.
It is generational, and I think for me, it also speaks to, you know, another thing I know you're passionate about is the fact that they hide what we actually contributed as Black people, as African people, Caribbean people, in the context of the UK.
Yeah.
And these are things that are readily available, and yet, again, you have to go and excavate these histories.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, that links into a lot of what you was discussing there, because at the end of the day, I watched a program a few years ago called Ebony Towers, and they interviewed Professor Paul Gilroy. And Paul Gilroy said, you know, this was probably 10 years ago, something like that, I don't know. But Paul Gilroy said, you can basically go into a school and say to Black children, name me one Black professor, or one Black, and not even a professor, name me a Black academic based in the UK. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it. And to me, these are those aspects of those hidden histories. And I'm not talking about the first to do this and the first to do that, because that's so problematic, because it makes people realize, no, it makes people almost think that we've never been doing anything. Then all of a sudden, the first one has done
something.
Yeah.
Which is not the case, obviously.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of touch on, how do you think that, say, as peoples of African ancestry, African Caribbeans, whatever we want to call ourselves, Black people under that umbrella, how do you think we can kind of come together and recognize those commonalities? Because I know you do it in a lot of your work. And one example I will give you is that play that you wrote, the wonderful play called, and you said you're not a writer, so if you're not a writer, I don't know what you are then.
Well, you know.
I don't know. Because to me, I think people get confused about what writing is. Because half of the compositions are up here, and then you may commit them to paper. So then it becomes a written document. But your play, I remember When Angels Collide, for me was wonderful, because not only was it about Black on Black violence, and when was that? Was that about 2008 you did that?
First screened at the Albany in 2007. And
see, I knew it was a long time ago.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. But do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And more importantly, why did you choose the two families?
Right. Well, at the time, those who know me know I don't really engage in like news and newspapers and stuff. I've been told off a lot about that, but it's just, I don't really engage too much in that. But what I did notice, and on the occasions when I did engage in the news and newspaper around that time, was that there was a lot of the unfortunate killings of young boys. And what I found was highlighted was the victim's family. I'm not taking anything away from that, but the other thing I noticed was that they tended that the coverage was always about children growing up in single parent households, Black boys in single parent households, you know, victims, how the victims' families feeling and stuff. And for me, I just thought to myself, but hold on, what about the perpetrator's family? And why is it always a single parent family? Why does that make, it basically just made single parent families look like all you're going to do is raise children who are going to kill someone, or parents who are not doing a great job. I was raised in a single parent family with my siblings, and opposites. It was like, it just wasn't what they were saying on the news. Did not relate to me, and I couldn't see how they can say that, because not every single parent family is going to raise, a child. And who raises a child to kill someone anyway? No one does that. You don't give birth to a child and say, I'm gonna raise you to go and hurt someone else.
Well, we hope not.
Well, we hope not, But for me, what I wanted to, I wanted to hear the story of the perpetrator's family.
Yeah.
Because they as well are suffering, a different kind of suffering, but they're still suffering, because they have both, one way or another, have lost a child.
That's right.
A family member, and that is what my play looked at. And also I wanted them to come from similar families, just to show that you're not born with evil inside of you. I would like to hope anyway that people are not born with evil inside of them, and it's just something that it could happen. And I wanted people to know that it could happen to anyone, so that you don't just look at children who have come from a single parent household and think you're bad. That sort of thing, which is kind of the message that I don't know about anyone else, but that's the message I was
absolutely. And the crucial thing, Omar, is that 2007 was the year when, between the government and the police and whatever, they said, we're going to make so-called black on black gang violence the thing. So 2007, I think it was February, they said there was something like 79 gangs. By August, there were about 400 and odd gangs.
Wow.
And what they were doing was they were just using it, for me, in my humble opinion, as another tactic to not just criminalize black youth, but to continue with that pathologization of the black family as a standard, one parent, whatever. And Tony Blair basically said it. He said it, a little bit after, I think it was probably around the same time, maybe a little bit after, basically all the trouble that's going on in society is because of the breakdown in black families and blah, blah, blah. But what I really liked about your play, and I remember you were running the scripts by me, and I was like, I just think that play should still be screened somewhere or performed or whatever it is you do, because it's timeless.
Yes,
and in fact, it probably speaks to this moment equally as it did then. In fact, I always thought it was a bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because, one, you went away from that notion of that pathological, almost psychotic black single parent child, whatever it was, to two regular families. And you also messed around with the cultures, because one was West African and one was West Indian.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, it was those nuances in the play where people actually thought they were different, but then they realized
they're similar.
We are regarded exactly the same. The society were basically condemning us.
Yes.
I don't care whether you're West African or so-called West Indian. They don't care.
No, they don't. They don't. You know, all they see is the same skin tone. You know, so
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter how well you speak or how well you do this or how well you do that. The fact is, for you to be qualified as a decent person, you'd either have to openly articulate it, or like the brother who got stopped going into Vogue, although there are loads of things about that you heard about him. The guy was the owner of Vogue, the Ghanaian.
Oh wow, okay.
Who came over here. He's the editor-in-chief of Vogue Britain, UK.
Wow.
And he went to go into his office the other day, a couple of months ago, and the security guard said to him, no, you need to use the back entrance.
Wow.
So there's this big thing about racial profiling, but I find it really interesting that they don't tell you the ethnicity of the person who said it. So I think there's something else going on there. The person got sacked, but the point is, this guy is one of the most successful business people in this country.
Yeah.
Yet all this person saw was a black man.
Yeah, that's it. That's all they
And
saw.
that for me is where a lot of these, you know, especially us as members of the African family, we need to deal with these things as well.
I was about to say that, to be honest. He was about to say that, you know, we can't always lay the blame at the white people, you know, at the white person's door or Caucasian's door, whatever, you know, we want to call them. We are guilty of it as well, you know, to one another. Because the girls I was talking about, I was talking about at secondary school, they weren't all white girls. They were, you know, girls from, you know, Jamaica, St. Lucia, you know, the girls. But all they saw was a separate person from them, because my accent, according to them, was different.
Yeah, and not only that,
Nigeria,
I'll remind you of something. Yeah, sorry to cut you, but it just came back to me.
Yeah.
That, firstly, Sis Natrima Ajayi spoke to the same things the other day when she was talking about her dark complexion, and she's a Lewisham young lady. Yeah. But she was talking about what she got. But I wonder if you remember this, when we used to go and get our hair done.
Yes.
Remember in Walworth Road?
Yeah, I remember.
And you were actually having your hair done by a Jamaican woman who was cussing Africans.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
And you never said anything. She was cussing them African, them food stink, them stink, blah, blah, blah. And it was, I remember you never said nothing. And I said to her, yo, sis, you know, as an African girl, this year, I do her ear, you know. Do you remember? And she didn't know what to do with herself.
She wasn't doing my hair. She was doing someone else's hair.
Oh, was it someone else's hair she was doing? But do you remember?
Yeah, because it was the same person that normally does my hair that was doing my hair that day.
Okay.
And yeah. And I remember because I was sitting this way. You were sitting we were sitting back to back. You were on the other. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Because you actually asked her, I think you said, like, how would you even, like, I think you asked her, would you even know if you saw an African? She said, of course. Oh no. So you said to her, so well, that sister there, what do you think she is? And she was like, she's Jamaican. Well, you know, she's Jamaican. And then you said to her what you said now. But yes, I remember. Yeah. But I thought, for me, that's the kind of thing where I think, you know what, I wouldn't even engage with someone like that, because how do you begin to reason with someone like that?
Yeah.
You can't. You know? So, you know, sometimes you do just have to, I don't know. Yeah, I was getting my hair done. I thought, you know, no matter what I say, and for me, sometimes it's better for me not to say something than for me to say, because it just goes to another level, you know. Yeah,
it's true, and I've had that experience. I remember my sister in Olanre Waju when we were going on a bus, and she bumped into this woman who was Nigerian, and the only reason we knew she was Nigerian was because she started cussing me and her, calling us bush animal, whatever the word is. And when I said to Lanre, as I called her, I said to her, what she said? She said, oh, she was calling us bush animals and all that, but I don't care. Because we accidentally bumped into her coming off the bus. So she's looked at me, looked at her, and thought, oh, they must be Jamaicans or Caribbean, and started lighting us up. Yeah. I get that quite often, funny enough. People don't think I'm Nigerian. So, you know, I've had people talking about me in Yoruba,
and I'm standing right next to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say nothing, and then sometimes I respond back in Yoruba, and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, you see
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
My friend Bemisola does that.
Yeah,
He used to
sometimes
do
I
that a
respond
lot.
back to them in Yoruba, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, blah, blah. I'm not like, yeah, but why do, you know, why do it? Why do it?
Yeah.
You know, why do it? It happened to a friend of mine. Me and my friend, we were, you know, I love Prince. So we were going to a Prince night in Peckham. What's that place? You know, that place they've turned into a big old, I can't remember what it's called now, in Peckham on Rye Lane.
Okay, yeah, I think I know the venue.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah,
yeah, and the you know, me and my friend, we've got locks, and we're both Nigerian. She's Igbo, I'm Yoruba, or half Yoruba. So I speak Yoruba anyway, she doesn't. And the security guard just started saying stuff about us. And at first I thought, oh, do you know what? You've come to listen to Prince, just focus on Prince. But then it just got a bit silly. So I had to respond to him in Yoruba, and he was like, oh no, oh, I didn't mean you. Oh no, I'm like, seriously, like.
of course you meant it.
Is it really necessary?
Exactly.
You know, is that really necessary? Just, and I just said to him, I said, we can't do things like that. I said, because if you're doing that to me, what do I then say to a white person or someone from a different race who says the same? I mean, like, you know, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
And he was very apologetic. He was like, well, it doesn't really mean anything because you said it thinking I didn't understand what you were saying. So it really doesn't mean anything. You're only apologizing because you got caught out.
Exactly.
You know?
And will you learn from it?
And that's what we need to stop doing to ourselves, really.
Absolutely. Even the other day, I heard people saying, yes, this person was clearly Nigerian. And I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's some of these, you know, I when I was reading with Brother Wayne, Shahid, he actually said, you know, we're talking about tearing down the statues. We need to get rid of the ones in our heads first.
Yes.
Those constructs that have been driven in there, that this person's this and that person is that. And you only look like this because of colonialism or chattel enslavement. And it's crazy.
But these are the things, or these are part of the things why I think it is very, very important that we know who we are, that we learn about our identity, we learn about our contribution, not just in Britain, but in the world, you know, as a collective, you know, because I know you were talking about, you know, my interest in our contribution, and it is very important. I mean, because I'm looking at our contribution, the contribution that was made by African and Caribbean men and women in Britain during World War II. I'm looking at that subject area. And no, you know, we weren't separate. We came to, all they saw were black people.
Absolutely.
You know? They didn't know if you came from Nigeria, if you came from Jamaica. All they saw were black people. And I think if we know who we are, if we know the contributions that we have made pre-Windrush, then we would walk differently, I think. We will view each other differently as well. You know, because that information is not given to us. And as you said, if the information is there, I mean, when I was doing my research, I had to dig very, very deep to get information that should just be there, you know. But I had to go looking. And the thing that I found that I really quite enjoyed was the fact that you look at one thing and then it leads to something else, and then it leads to something else, and then it leads to something else. You know, because as I said, I was looking at the contribution that was made by black men and women. I was thinking of on the battlefield, but I was amazed at the information I got about the contribution we were making right here at home, on the home front. They were also nearby as well, you know. So it's not like, you know, oh yeah, it was somewhere in places that I've been to, places that I go to on a regular basis, you know, and they were doing the work right here. So we didn't even have to look at, you know, by the time I finished my research, I'd uncovered so much more when I went to people. And it's important, but it's just not given to us.
Yeah.
And we need to start looking for it, and we need to start early. Because when I was doing my research and I was telling people, oh, I'm doing this, the amount of people, and I'm talking about across the board, age range and everything, people were amazed. A lot of people didn't know. There was stuff I didn't know.
Yeah.
As I said, I was thinking more of the people on the battlefield, but there was so much going on here at home. And I'm talking Deptford, you know, Marylebone, all over the place, New Cross, you know, all over the place. And we were part of that. We were helping. We helped before, we helped during, we helped after. So we didn't just come here when everything was settled and finished.
So yeah, so really, you're talking about programs like West Indies Calling that was broadcasted in 1942, and what's her name? Uma Marsden. There you go. Head not good in them. Can't remember certain things.
And funny enough, Uma Marsden was actually part, something I uncovered during my research. She was actually part of the League of Coloured People, which was a civil rights organisation that was founded by Dr. Harold Moody. That's another thing we're not told about. We're told about American civil rights movements, but we had one right here. And I'm talking like, I think it was like in the 1930s or something. And it was right here. And we don't know about those things. And we should know about those things. You know, we really should know about those things, because it just goes to show that we don't just sit around waiting for things to happen, waiting for people to hand us things. You know, we contribute. We have been, and we always, and we still are contributing. But if we don't know this, we've got no chance, to be honest. If we don't know about this, we have no chance. Because if you feel like you've just come here with your hand out begging, you're always going to feel like you should be in the background waiting for someone to toss you a little crumb. But if you know that in fact you've contributed to this, you know, if you know that you've helped to build this, then you walk around like the master of the manor, you know, or the lord of the manor, as they say. And you have that confidence in yourself, you have that confidence in what you're doing. And people can't just push things onto you. They can't make you conform to certain things. They can't make you believe certain things. But for me, that's not down to the government or the world to do that. That's down to us.
Absolutely.
We have to do it. We have to feed our minds. We have to go looking for, you know, for the answers for so many questions that are out there at the moment. We need to go looking for those answers. And that's what I, in my way, use my my drama as a medium to do these things, to bring, not just to answer, I'm not going to answer all the questions for you, but I'll give you something to feed your mind, and then you can go and look for the answers as well, you know.
Absolutely. Well, that's literally each one teach one.
Yes.
And that's what we have to do. And I think to add to the thing you were saying about the confidence, we also then have confidence in people who look like us.
Yes.
Because we are taught not to trust people who look like us. We are taught absolutely in this society to not pay merit to anyone who looks like us.
That's so true. That's so true. And that's why we have the problems that we have. You know, I won't say that's the whole reason, but it's part of the reason that we have the problem that we have, because we don't trust each other. We don't trust people who look like us.
Not enough. Absolutely.
Not enough.
And Marimba Annie said it beautifully. Marimba Annie, who wrote Yurugu, she said white people only have the power over us because we continue to give it up to them.
Exactly.
And that for me, that sums that up. But anyway, Omo, because I want to know, or is there anything surprising you'd like to share about yourself?
Well,
something that would surprise people who know you.
Apart from you not knowing that my name is Mary, or my name is
that was a shocker. And you know why? Because one of the reasons why I actually wanted you to come on this is if I'm being honest, and I've met, let's say, 100 brothers and sisters from the continent, I would say only 10 out of that 100 were really forthright in the fact that this is my name. I remember you were teaching me Yoruba so I could pronounce your name properly. and then breaking it all down. And what I'm basically saying is you are an exemplar of that. And you know, I've known you long enough. I knew you from when you are probably just barely in your 20s or something. But what I'm basically saying is you've always been immensely proud of that. And in a really weird way, it reminds me of my dad. My dad was fiercely Jamaican and fiercely African.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't, I doubt if he knew many words from any country in Africa, but he knew he was an African. So they could call him whatever the hell they wanted, as long as he knew that's not what he was. This is what he is, and this is what makes him know that he belongs to a very proud people. My mum did the same thing in her own little quiet way, but my dad was very forthright in that. You know, in our house, if an African team was playing England, we would have to support England in our head, because it might be Man United or Arsenal players playing for them. But we could never openly do that in front of my dad. He would, what wrong with or not? You know, what do you think you are if you're not Africans? Yeah. And that's really interesting. But I need, so what can you share with us?
What can I share? Okay,
and then a takeaway.
Okay. What to share? I would say something, I don't know, some people might know it, some people might not, but I do not like to see myself on video, on camera. I don't like it. I just do not like it. I don't like taking pictures. I don't like hearing my voice being played back. It's like, oh, I just can't do it. When I've done films and they've done the screening, I sit like that, because when my scenes come up, I just don't, I just don't like it. So I guess that's something some people wouldn't know.
Do you know, I understand that, and it's really weird, because people have me as this big whatever, and I know you know me, and I was saying to H the other day, I'm quite a shy person, because he was saying he is, but one of the things people will say to me is they'll go, oh, Dr. Les, you said this, and I'm like, really? Because I hardly ever watch anything I've done, unless I use it in my teaching. I try never to read what I've written, unless I use it in my teaching. Because to me, you know what I think some of it is? I think some of it is, we've done that, it's done, move on.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think that's what it is. So I totally get that, because some people say, oh, you're being modest, or you're being this or whatever. No, it's actually, I know what, I hardly ever. Now, if I've recorded, I've probably recorded 50 records easily. There's probably 5 that I listen to. And one is my tribute to my mother. But the rest of them, like, people will say, oh, are they fine performances? And they send them to me. I remember a sister of mine sent me a performance on Diamonds. And she said to me, have you listened to it? I said, no, I deleted it because I don't want to hear it. I just can't. Yeah, it's like, I get that. I get that. And what can you give us to take away?
Well, if you don't mind, if you can indulge me for a few more minutes, I'd like to read something that I wrote a few years ago when I went to Cotonou in Benin, Republic of Benin in West Africa. I was doing research on the Amazon.
That's the other thing I wanted to say before you read it. That's one of the things I admire you, because you went to Niger as well, didn't you?
To where?
Was it Niger or whatever they call it?
No, I went to Benin, Cotonou.
Oh, Benin. I remember you telling me once, I'm going off somewhere to do research, and you're not gone. But read that for us.
Okay, so this is, as I said, it's when I was doing my research about the Dahomey Amazon warriors. They were the all-female military. Also known as the King's Bodyguards.
You know, there's a TV program about them.
Yes.
I saw it last year.
Of Dahomey, So I did some research, and this really is about what we were saying about us, or it ties in, I should say, about what we were saying about liking ourselves. And just realizing that we are linked, whether we like it or not. You know, and this is what I found when I went there. So this is kind of like a reflection, or a poem, however you wanna see. So it's called My Kin. As I sat enjoying the cool breeze of the sea, and I looked out onto the vastness of it all, I couldn't help but give thanks to my Creator for the abundance of blessings and favor that has been showered upon me. As the sprays from the seawater hit my face, I thought of the events that brought me here, my need and gift, my desire to succeed, and my yearning to be fulfilled. In this land where language is a barrier, I look around and see my reflection all around me. But to communicate, I can only do so with a smile and a nod, and a very quiet, bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur. On the days when I'm bold, I utter yet again a very quiet, comment ça va? To which I quickly say something in English, so that a long conversation does not ensue in French. Again, I give thanks, for although my kin and I, separated not by choice, now speak in a language not of our own, thus we cannot always communicate, we are still linked in spirit. As my brothers and sisters who can, try very hard to break the silence of my foreign tongue, and what cannot be expressed in words, they express in deeds of kindness, selflessness, and love. So as I sit on this beach with nature, I give thanks to our Creator for the spiritual bond and love that I share with my kin. And that was because...
This is someone who says she's not a writer.
I'm not. I'm an actor. But that was because it's amazing. The way they were, you know, it's like as I said there, their kindness, their selflessness, because as I said, I went to do research and I'd contacted people beforehand, before getting there. So it was all via email and everything. And when I got there, it was like we'd known each other for years.
Absolutely.
You know, there was just that connection. Yeah. And like I said, you know, that barrier, that where we're not speaking the same language. And funny enough, a lot of them had come from Nigeria, as in their ancestors were Nigerian. Yeah. You know, and so it was just, I just think we are so blessed. I think we are. If we know our strength and our worth, then we can, you know, we can move mountains, as they say. Absolutely. But we have to do it together. We have to do it together. So for me, a takeaway would be how we can, not waiting for the government, not waiting for outside people, how we can find ways to learn about and implement our culture, our heritage in our lives, in the lives of our children, in the lives of the people we know, so that we can just find this strength that is in us. We have it. There's no way, no one can tell me we don't have a particular type of strength, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely.
You know? So we have that strength, but we need to do it together. We need to do it together.
Oma, we have to call it a day. I know we're going to link up again soon, and that would be nice. Stay blessed, stay focused, and we will catch up soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite. Stay blessed. Bye.
Champ is a term I use to describe my mother. In this world, you know, I love that woman like